Welcome back, my friends. Streaming services are removing tons of movies and shows. It's not personal, it's strictly business. Consumers thought streaming would be forever, but library content is disappearing as studios seek to cut costs. Wall Street has turned up the heat on media companies, now focusing on if and when streaming will be profitable versus if they're putting up big subscriber numbers. Removing content from streaming platforms is a way for streamers to avoid residual payments and licensing fees. Netflix has been ruthlessly cutting costs in recent days. Netflix subscriber growth has stopped and gone negative. And, at least for the moment, Netflix is no longer a growth company. After reigning for years as the king of streaming, Netflix faces a tough fight to stay on top. What does this mean for the streaming industry? What does this mean for tech companies? What does this mean for the economy? And what does this mean for the future of the United States? But, before we get into that, please press the like button and leave us a comment below. We would love to hear from you. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you are notified when new videos are released. And, before we continue, a word from the sponsor of this video. Today's sponsor is InnerLife.com, creator of the InnerLife STS system. InnerLife STS is a cloud mobile platform for mental health care and its integration with primary medical care. InnerLife STS is designed for assessment, data collection and analytics, documentation, and progress tracking. InnerLife STS creates and composes conceptualized narratives and builds them into professional-grade reports. These reports are designed for use by mental health professionals, primary care physicians, justice system professionals and universities and include mental health assessment reports, mental health treatment reports, and treatment progress reports. And InnerLife STS uses doctor-selected pseudonames for all patients. So, only the healthcare professional knows the patient identity. Streaming was supposed to be forever. That was the promise of a digital library of movies and TV shows. Consumers got used to Netflix cycling through titles, aware that as Hollywood studios launched their own streaming services, proprietary content would transition to a new platform. Even when Warner Bros. Discovery pulled content as part of planned tax write-offs tied to its merger, consumers seemed to accept the move as the cost of doing business. However, as Disney is set to yank dozens of shows and films from Disney Plus and Hulu, including Willow, The Mighty Ducks, Game Changers, and The Mysterious Benedict Society, subscribers are suddenly faced with a new reality. At first I expected any show that was on a streaming platform would stay on that platform, said Conrad Burton, 35, an account manager at a transportation company in Raleigh, North Carolina. But then I started noticing things expiring. After the initial bloom of new platforms and subscriber growth, aided by pandemic lockdowns and a surge of fresh content, the digital streaming industry has cooled. And Wall Street has turned up the heat on media companies, now focusing on if and when streaming will be profitable versus if those providers are putting up big subscriber numbers. The change came last year after Netflix reported its first subscriber loss in a decade. What is hitting their income statements is the amortization of content that's already been made and released, said Michael Nathanson, an analyst at SVB Moffett-Nathanson. Warner Bros. Discovery was the first one to figure this out, so we have to give credit where it's due. They said they need to get their earnings up, so they started taking shows off the app. Disney is now doing that and we should expect Paramount to follow suit. And one day Netflix may even do the same thing. It's been difficult for consumers to understand why content made specifically for streaming platforms has been removed, especially when Netflix originals remain untouched in its library. From a consumer standpoint, what they want to be able to always have access to their content, said Dan Rayburn, a media and streaming analyst. The part that really confuses consumers is because they don't understand how content is licensed, he said. They do get confused when one day content is on a service and then disappears or the content is still in the service, but it's only X number of seasons. Removing content from platforms is a way for streamers to avoid residual payments and licensing fees. Much like syndication of Hollywood's yesteryear, streaming services must pay for the right to host a title, explained Brandon Katz, an industry strategist at Parrot Analytics. He noted that if a title is not owned by the streamer, then a licensing fee must be paid to the studio that owns that content. For example, Hulu licenses The Handmaid's Tale from MGM Television. Even titles that are owned in-house must be licensed. That's why NBC Universal had to pay itself $500 million to stream Universal TV's The Office on Peacock and Warner Bros. Discovery paid $425 million for the streaming rights to the WB-TV-produced Friends. The balance sheet must reflect that, Katz said. By removing the content specifically made for streaming rather than licensed shows and movies, Warner Bros. Discovery and Disney can immediately cut expenses. Warner Bros. Discovery saved tens of millions of dollars after eliminating content. The studio's removal of movies and TV shows began last summer, initially with titles such as the Sesame Street spin-off, The Not Too Late Show with Elmo, and teen drama, Generation. But in the ensuing months, more and more original HBO and Max content was removed. Most notably, the sci-fi dramas, Westworld, and Raised by Wolves, disappeared. In my opinion, it discourages subscribers from checking out future original content, said Matt Cartelli, 33, from New York State's Hudson Valley. Streaming used to be seen as a safe haven for consumers who were sick and tired of seeing shows canceled on traditional TV. Now streamers are following suit by canceling their own underperformers. Cartelli was especially disappointed when he learned Disney Plus initially planned to remove Howard, about a songwriter whose work was heard in Disney films such as the animated The Little Mermaid. Disney reversed its decision about that title after facing backlash on social media. And streamers have a fine line to walk. The risk is with the writers' strike, Nathanson said. If it continues for a while, then they will rely on library content. If there's nothing on there, churn will only get worse. Streaming services are being strategic about what sticks around and what leaves their platforms. Major hits such as Max's Peacemaker or Disney's The Mandalorian are unlikely to be pulled from their respective apps. Meanwhile, underperforming shows and films could be on the chopping block. In the first quarter of the year, the demand for the dozens of shows and movies being cut from Disney Plus represented only 1.9% of the total Disney Plus catalog, according to data from Parrot Analytics. For comparison, The Mandalorian accounted for 1.3% of total demand during the same period. Similarly, the removed titles for Hulu accounted for just 0.4% of demand on the streaming service. And these titles aren't lost forever. Soon after cutting programs from Max, Warner Bros. Discovery began licensing the content to Fox Corp's Tubi and Roku, which are free, ad-supported streaming television platforms, also known as FAST, allowing it to bring in a new source of revenue for the content. As media companies have been desperate to make streaming profitable, the businesses have been turning more and more to new advertising strategies, from cheaper, ad-supported offerings to putting content on FAST channels. My main takeaway is that nothing is guaranteed to remain on streaming forever. You are paying for a convenient way to watch content, but it is not a replacement for buying a movie or TV show on home video, Cartelli said. Actually, the entire streaming industry seems to be on the precipice of upheaval and major changes. Paramount Global's flagship streaming service Paramount Plus will combine with its Showtime app in the US on June 27, the company said Monday. With the newly merged streamer will come an increase in pricing, as Paramount had announced earlier this year. The Paramount Plus with Showtime Premium tier will increase to $11.99 from $9.99, while the Paramount Plus option without Showtime content will increase by $1 to $5.99. The integration goes beyond Paramount's streaming options. The premium cable TV network, known for series like Yellowjackets and Billions, will also be rebranded as Paramount Plus with Showtime, and the company will also sunset the standalone Showtime app by the end of the year. Once integrated, the Showtime TV network will also feature content from Paramount Plus, which has produced original series that spun off from popular franchises like Yellowstone and Criminal Minds. Showtime is an extra subscription fee on the pay TV bundle. Paramount has said it expects peak losses for its fledgling streaming service Paramount Plus this year. The combined platforms will also help cut down on content spending, which has been a recent focus for media companies as they look to make streaming profitable. Warner Bros. Discovery has been cutting costs since completing its merger. The company is also launching Max on Tuesday, the combination of HBO Max and Discovery Plus. However, Discovery Plus will also remain as a standalone service. Disney announced this year it would cut $5.5 billion in costs, including $3 billion on the content set. Last week, CEO Bob Iger said Disney would add Hulu content to its Disney Plus platform, a move toward a one-app experience for consumers and to streamline business for advertisers. The company will also focus on adding more ad-supported customers, and plans to increase its ad-free streaming prices later this year. Is Netflix in financial trouble? Well, That depends how you view the future. Even after a disastrous 2022, Netflix is still the largest streaming company in the world. Netflix is not the only tech company so experienced decline in 2022. The video streaming industry has experienced several challenges and problems in recent years. The reaction of Wall Street, or the financial markets in general, to the saturation of the streaming industry can vary depending on specific events, company performance, and investor sentiment. The U.S. economy is ravaged by non-stop inflation. The Federal Reserve is aggressively increasing interest rates. Companies that have run into problems in 2022 are being punished severely in the stock market. But, what do you think? Please leave us a comment below. We would love to hear from you. Please hit the like button. Please share this video on social media. Thank you for watching.